All right, welcome back to the program. It is 8 minutes after 1 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Bright sunshine out there today. What a difference a day makes, right? Did anybody see that rainbow yesterday? It was incredible. And what was so cool about it, I mean, it was a double rainbow that you actually could see the beginning and the end of. It was, I guess, maybe in the 3 o'clock hour, maybe around 4 o'clock. And so the sun was just at the right point in the sky that you could see the beginning and the end. And what was so cool is we stepped outside here to take video of it, and just like everybody in the plaza that we're in was out in the parking lot at the same time taking pictures. And then a little bit later on, you could see on Facebook, people from all over the region had taken photos and video of it and had posted it up there. So it was cool to see it from different perspectives and different areas. No rainbow out there today, just some bright sunshine. It's going to be chilly this weekend and wet too. And of course, the details of that ABC 6 weather forecast coming up again at the top of the hour, so stay tuned for that. All right, we continue to discuss the situation involving the New Bedford School Department, which again is in crisis. The superintendent announcing her resignation yesterday, paraphrasing her, basically saying, look, given the school committee members that are remaining and those new members that will be coming on board in January, it doesn't appear as though there's enough support for me and my agenda. No sense in me prolonging this and staying on. Time for me to move on. So she's moving on. There was also an incident, actually a couple of them, on Wednesday and Thursday involving newly elected member John Oliveira, where he went to meet with the superintendent on Wednesday. Things got ugly, and I thought he was completely rude and completely really in violation of any kind of class or any kind of protocol whatsoever, swearing in the meeting, banging his hand on the desk, I guess, slamming the door on his way out. Police had to be called, went back the next day demanding another meeting. A similar incident occurred. The police were called, and he has been served with no trespassing papers, and he can't appear at any of the city's school buildings until further notice. So I think things have gotten to a very, very ugly point. At the beginning of my program today, I referenced the fact that I felt personally as a voter disappointed in Josh Amaral, that he's getting himself involved in this. I think he's a young guy, and he's got a bright future, and I think he's got a great political future and a great political head on his shoulders. And I wish he'd stick with the issues of education and not the personality stuff, and I hope he doesn't wander into that. Chris Cotter, who is also a member of the school committee, was on the air with Brian in the last hour. He's not a supporter of the superintendent, as you know, and has never tried to hide that fact. He's been very vocal about it, and he requested some time. He felt that I wasn't fair to him in allowing him to present his case, and that I was on the air talking about all of this, and he felt that I was referring to him. So more than graciously, I agreed, and he is with us on the line right now. I'd like to hear from him and his point of view on all of this. Chris Cotter, appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
No problem, Barry. Thanks.
All right, just a couple of things. You have never made any bones about the fact that you don't like Pia Durkin on a personal level, as well as a professional level. All right. So you would never vote to renew her contract anyway?
I think I've made that statement as well, correct.
Okay, just trying to get it all on the record because I don't want to be accused of taking things or your points of view out of context. Why don't you personally like Pia Durkin?
Well, I think based on the issues that took place 6 months into my term, generated the personal level between she and I and the chairman as well.
All right. You felt that she had overstepped her bounds in regard to your job as a police officer.
There were accusations made. I requested an investigation, and I was shut down by both the chairman as well as the superintendent at that time, correct? Okay. So because that was the case, you have had some personal animosity toward the superintendent. Why professionally do you not like Pia Durkin? Well, I don't think I've said professionally I don't like her. As far as the demeanor that she treats people, that's been an issue that, I've always been of the belief that you treat people the way that you want to be treated. And there are people that have come forward to discuss their issues that they have personally had with her on the way that they've been treated, and it's just not a professional environment.
All right, so you've been a professional police officer for a lot of years. You've dealt with a lot of folks. Is it not true that sometimes you got to hold your nose if that person's doing a good job and accomplishing what they set out to do? Sometimes their personality may rub you the wrong way, but if they're doing the job, is that not the most important thing?
Well, again, I mean, your version of what's been doing a good job versus, certain data that's presented versus DESI data versus administration data. Not everything equals to 100% accuracy. So a lot of the information that is given is not the total package that should be, and that a lot of the data that is presented does show that things are in the right direction, when in reality the entire data package shows that they've either gone down, stayed the same.
Is the school district not in better shape today than it was 4 years ago when Pia Durkin took over?
I mean, to say it's in better shape, I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, we've lost over 700 employees. So, I mean, as far as the lack of experience that the district had over the years, no, I don't think it's in better shape than we had. Do I think that we have some positive things that have been occurring in the district? Yes, I do. But again, as far as data and numbers, what growth of those schools that have been highlighted, Parker, Haymack, the high school, discipline in the middle schools, where has that been an improvement?
Well, the acting commissioner, Jeff Wolson, of the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, was quoted in the newspaper saying this morning, "I'm saddened by the news that Superintendent Durkin is resigning at the end of the school year. As we noted this past July when we released the district from monitoring, New Bedford Public Schools has made great strides under her leadership to address systemic concerns and improve the quality of teaching and learning across the district." Is he wrong?
Well, you're saying great strides. Anywhere in that statement, was there improvement?
Well, great strides sounds like improvement to me, right? And he also took the city off of monitoring back in July, so they must be convinced that we're heading in the right direction.
Well, internal monitoring versus still under the watchful eye are still two different.
Well, every district in the state is under the watchful eye, Chris. You know that. Every district in the state is under the watchful eye, but not every district in the state is under state monitoring, where you actually have a monitor assigned to the district to watch everything that's going on and observe and report back to Boston. Not every district has that. Only districts that are going through turnaround programs like New Bedford, Brockton, Fall River, places like that have had to do that. So, I mean, it's obvious from his statement here that he feels things are heading in the right direction. He says Dr. Durkin deserves significant credit for leading this turnaround effort and for maintaining a consistent focus on what is best for the students in New Bedford. He says district turnaround work involves frank discussions and hard and sometimes unpopular decisions. I sincerely hope the district continues the work that Durkin started to provide all New Bedford students with the education and opportunities they deserve. So I ask again, is he wrong?
Well, let me throw that statement into a guest that you had on Wednesday. The mayor had brought up to you that, what she's presented has been a good area for the district. But he also mentioned that, the style that she came in with may not be the style that we need to continue with. So my question is, why did you not question the mayor on that?
I did extensively, and it's online. Anybody can go and listen to it. As a matter of fact, the Standard Times wrote about that interview in today's newspaper. But the only major complaint that the mayor had that I was able to get him, and believe me, I kept trying to pry to pull stuff out of him. The only complaint that he was able to give me was the budget process is contentious with her. To which I say to you, I would rather have a superintendent who's an advocate for kids, fighting for more money for programs and fighting for this and fighting for that and being contentious because she's an advocate for the students, than having a bunch of politicians sit around and say, well, how do we cut the budget and still maintain minimum net school spending? So I don't see a problem. I want a superintendent that's going to be contentious when it's fighting for the kids. Don't you?
Okay, yeah, but where have we as a committee not fought for children?
Well, I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just answering your question on what the mayor said. And the mayor's only concern that he was able to express to me on Wednesday was that he felt the budget process was more contentious than it needs to be. And I'm saying I want a superintendent that's going to be out there fighting, rolling up her sleeves and fighting and saying, give us more. We want more. If that's contentious and that's wrong, I don't know what to say.
I think we as a committee have all stated that we want more. But the bottom line here is that we also have to be conscientious of what the budget looks like versus what the city can afford.
No question.
So, I mean, we also look at Chapter 70 money that's coming from the state. So, I mean, the budget process is not as easy as the general public thinks it is to say, oh, well, the school committee is asking for more money, so there must be a lot of waste in that budget.
Sure. No, I agree with you 100%, Chris. I was speaking with Chris Cotter, member of the school committee, about all the goings-on over the last couple of days, and I agree with you 100%. But I want a superintendent and a school committee, and I know you fight for the kids too, Chris, but I want a school committee and I want a superintendent that's going to fight for every nickel they can get out of City Hall. And if that means the budget process becomes contentious, then that's the way I guess it's got to be. But I mean, so far up to this point, you've conceded that there has been progress with our district turnaround. State's no longer threatening to take us over. They've taken the responsibility for the level 5 school, which if I remember correctly, it's the one near the Klasky Park there. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Parker School.
That's right, Parker School, and put it under her authority rather than having the state take it over. We are seeing movement in the right direction. We're an urban school with a lot of serious issues. It's not going to go full tilt overnight, and you understand that, but we're making progress in the right direction. All I've been able to get from you so far is that you don't like her style, and maybe she's, her personality has some issues. But in terms of moving the district in the right direction, you seem to agree that we're moving in the right direction.
No, I said there are some positive things that have been put in place in the district. That is correct.
All right, so what specifically negatively has she done? What has she done negatively that would have you, Chris Cotter, say, you know what, we don't want to up her contract. We don't want her around anymore. We need to go out and search for a new superintendent.
Well, again, it's all part of the evaluation process. So, I mean, I'm not going to, she's put her resignation in, as it was stated earlier, today's shows with Brian. I'm not going to, knock her down versus trying to have her change her mind. She's made her decision based on what she felt was right for her. So, I mean, we as a... Yeah, but
that decision was... I'm sorry, Chris, not to interrupt you, but that decision was based on comments made by you, by John Oliveira, by Colleen DeWicki, by maybe even the mayor, some of the things the mayor said. Her decision was influenced by statements made by politicians, which leads her to believe that I'm going to be sitting here spinning my wheels for the next 2 years with my agenda because I'm not going to get the kind of support that I need to go in the direction I want to go. And these people obviously feel we should go in a different direction, which is fair and fine. All I'm asking is, what was wrong with the direction that we were going in, other than the fact that maybe she's a bitch, I don't know, and she's tough to get along with. What is wrong with the direction that we were going in? We're making slow but steady progress.
Well, again, I mean, slow but steady, and I'm not saying that the district had to be turned around in a matter of a year, but she's going into her 5th year
she's in her 4th year now, yeah.
So, I mean, again, the strides that are being made, okay, so the state's no longer in our schools. But the bottom line here is that we still have level 5, we still have level 4s, and the issue at hand is that the numbers are still not changing. And I don't totally agree with the state's numbering system to begin with because it is jaded. And as it was stated, and you even mentioned it, when you have schools that are primarily urban districts, you're going to have more problems in those schools.
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have those lower numbers.
But the next superintendent's not going to come in and wave a magic wand and that's going to be better. These are problems that are... No one
said they are.
No, these are problems that are foisted upon districts like ours, that there really is little that we can do at the local level to fix these problems. I mean, again, you have busloads of kids pull up to the high school every day. Kids come off, don't speak English. They're there for a very short period of time. They're in and out. The last I heard from the superintendent's office, we have 38 languages that are spoken at the high school. These are problems. We have teachers that don't get paid enough, administrators that don't get paid enough. They deal with social issues all day long, which you, as a police officer, I know you're well aware of. So, I mean, there are a lot of challenges that are placed on a district like ours that are really beyond the control of the local community to deal with, right? I mean, suspensions and expulsions and the kind of things that we used to be able to use as tools, we don't have at our disposal anymore.
Well, we don't expel. So, I mean, that's one thing. We don't throw children out of school. We have the alternative setting, which is where they're placed.
Yeah.
So that part there has changed. We used to be able to just remove students from the district. So that has changed, but that was long before Dr. Durkin came in as superintendent.
Right, but the problems that result as a result of that, we want to look at her and lay the blame at her feet. These are problems that were here before she came in, and there's not much she can do about it. I mean, if you're a young teacher coming out of school and you got good grades and you got a chance to go teach in Wellesley or a chance to teach in an urban district like New Bedford or Fall River, where are you going to go? You're going to get paid more money in Wellesley, and you're not going to have the social issues and all the other headaches that go along with trying to teach. That's why we have a turnover rate. That's why Fall River can't keep teachers, and
so
the other urban districts too.
So what you're saying is that every individual that has left this district has gone to a non-urban setting?
No, some have gotten out of the business altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you have teachers that have left the district with 40 to 50% of their pension because of the way they've been treated and the less that they can teach as a teacher, because it has to be a specific mandated district lesson, not a state lesson, but it's either teach my way or get out.
But isn't that what a superintendent is hired for? The superintendent is the boss, right?
But where has that been proven to be a huge asset for the numbers?
But you've got to have, when you got a tribe, you got to have one chief, and you got the rest of them are Indians, right? Somebody has to set the standard. That's yeah.
We do set the standard. The state sets the standard.
Right.
So give the autonomy to the classroom teachers to teach their lessons and engage the students in the way that they feel that they're getting the best engagement of their kids.
Right. Well, we do that with the middle schools now as much as we can, but we're under, as you know, we're under tight regulation from the state. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the test scores. Very different days from when Charlie Nanopoulos was the superintendent or when Mike Longo was the superintendent. A very, very different responsibility since education reform in the 90s and, of course, No Child Left Behind. So there are certain things that superintendents do these days that they didn't do back then, and it's all about business and the business of numbers.
But we pushed for autonomy in the classroom, not we as collective as a committee, as well as before I get on,
right,
for the autonomy for those classrooms. So what took so long to finally say, listen, we're having a problem in the middle school, so let's see if we can give them the autonomy to teach to those students. So
right. I won't disagree with that.
That we've had concerns.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that, and I think we should be doing more to include some vocational education in the middle schools. But we'll save that for a different day. We're speaking with Chris Cotter here from the school committee. I only got a couple of seconds left, Chris, but I wanted to ask your thoughts on this whole thing with John Oliveira. Do you think he behaved appropriately at the superintendent's office this week? Was that appropriate behavior for anybody? As an elected official, particularly one who's only been in, not even in office yet, only been an elected, he hasn't even been sworn in. He's only been elected 2 weeks ago. Was that appropriate?
Well, there are two things I want to address here. First is that that is under an investigation right now, so I really don't feel comfortable speaking. I have spoken to several individuals that were privy to that specific incident. So I think the investigation will provide entirely what fully took place, based on face value.
again, I wasn't there, but based on what I'm hearing and what I've heard Mr. Oliveira say, no. And I think he's also admitted the fact that it was inappropriate. So I'm not going to not feel comfortable saying that it was inappropriate.
Right.
But the second issue that I want to ask you is that, which is the reason that precipitated your invitation to call, is that your direct statement over the air to Mr. Amaral was insulting indirectly, even though you didn't name me by name, but to advise Mr. Amaral to stay away from them and those policies or those areas of concern. Who were you, in fact, responding to?
I am sensing a lynch mob mentality here, and I think that the voters sense that as well when this election went down. I think some folks voted for, say, John Oliveira or Colleen DeWicki because there were openings on the panel, first of all, but because they wanted change. Okay, they wanted change. They wanted new thoughts out there.
Who were the?
Hold on, I'm getting to that. So what I am sensing here is the same thing that Dr. Durkin sensed, that there's a lynch mob mentality. And that's why I asked you directly. The very first questions I asked you was about your feelings toward her personally and your feelings toward her professionally, and for you to explain to me why you felt it was time for her to go. Because I'm sensing a lynch mob, and I sense that you're a part of that lynch mob, that you want to get her out, and I think part of it is due to your personal dislike of her.
Okay. But again, you also feel that, and you've made several comments about me and the way that I handled things and the way that, things are done. So basically your indirect statement to Mr. Amaral to stay away from them.
Stay away from the lynch mob. Stay away from any lynch mob that's out there with the main objective of trying to replace the superintendent. Look, how many superintendents have we had in 10 years? We've had a lot of them, haven't we?
We certainly have.
Yeah, and we've gone in different directions all over the place. This cost us money. Money that could be going into buying books or doing whatever the hell we need school education money for. We're now going to spend to go out and search for a new superintendent because we're driving this one away. And my whole bottom line here is that nobody has been able to indicate to me a reason why we really need to put our district through this again. We've come off of so many different superintendents, a threat of a state takeover, the state monitoring us on our backs, low test scores.
First of all,
we don't really need to go through this again, in my opinion.
The statement that has been stated that this district was in threat of a state takeover is totally 100% inaccurate. Were there schools that were possibly to be held as a state takeover? Yes. One, level 5, Parker School. So, yes. There was a school.
The entire district was proclaimed by the state to be a chronically underperforming district. That's the old terminology. They got a new term for it now. So the entire district was underperforming chronically.
But it was not under a threat of a state takeover.
Well, I think Mitchell Chester's take on that was a little bit different, but he's not with us anymore, so we can't. The bottom. My point here is if our main objective as a school committee right now is to sack the superintendent and find a new superintendent, I think that's misguided. I think we've got to take and that's what I was talking to Josh Amaral about, kind of indirectly. If there's a lynch mob out there, don't become a part of it, because I don't think that is the most productive way to go. I don't think we really need to be in the search for a new superintendent at this point and disrupt our district, and we don't need to spend the money. I think
that is your opinion.
Absolutely, and that's what I get paid to do. I get paid to give my opinion, and that's why I had you come on the air so you can give your opinion.
But your opinion is warning a particular member to stay away from a group, like we're out there headhunting. Just because I've made a statement which is consistent with the mayor, but is that the one that you're warning Josh to stay away from?
No, what your position is that you have a personal dislike for the superintendent. You guys have roughed it up with each other before. You have a personal dislike, and that's why I wanted to get that on the record right off. You've got a personal dislike for her, and you have a professional disagreement with her.
But we also work together. So it's not like I totally disagree with every idea or every plan that she's come to put in place. It's a professional setting.
So do you, at this point, if you had
personal dislike for someone, does not mean that I cannot work with them professionally.
Would you have voted to extend her contract next year?
again, show me some other numbers that we've gone. So, I mean,
all right, no, be honest with me, Chris. Chris, be honest, Chris. We're being honest with each other here. Be honest with me. You had no intention to vote to extend her contract.
She has chosen not to stay. So that's her choice.
But you had no intention to vote to extend her contract, and you let that be known to people that you were dissatisfied with her and that you would not vote to extend her contract. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And I've said that publicly numerous times.
All right.
It doesn't mean I'm part of a lynch mob that you're referring to.
Well, that's the way I see it. That's my opinion.
Of a lynch
Absolutely
mob.
Right, and that's my opinion, and your opinion is different from that. I don't see a reason.
My opinion is that I am not part of a lynch mob. So
all right.
That's a fact. It's not an opinion.
All right. My opinion is my opinion. Yours is yours. But you had no intention whatsoever of voting to extend her, and I do not see why we need to put this district through more trauma. We've been through enough trauma. We were going in the right direction. You heard the remarks from the state, from the acting commissioner, Jeff Wolfson of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Nothing but praise for the direction the school district is going through. There was no real need to go through this at this point.
But it doesn't mean things weren't going to change come next year either. So,
well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, if she hadn't resigned, her contract was not going to be renewed next year anyway. But you know what? You and DeWicki and what's his name? I forget his name already. The gentleman from this morning, Oliveira. You guys were going to resist her on pretty much everything between here and there. So I mean, it was a foregone conclusion, and you've just conceded.
Again, see, no, you're totally inaccurate. We're not resisting everything that she presents. That's where you're totally off base. I have not resisted everything she's presented. As a matter of fact, she and I totally agree on several issues. For example, the dual enrollment. Even though we had a discussion about it, even though I totally disagreed on how it was handled, we've still been able to agree on a professional level that it's actually a good program. So don't sit on the other end of that microphone and say that I have totally disagreed or totally, pushed every agenda that she's presented totally on the other side. That's not true. Look at my voting record. I vote majority in favor of certain issues than I do in the negative.
All right, I'll concede that point. I will concede that point to you. I'll concede that point. I have nothing to back up my argument on that, so I can't. I'll give you that point. But my point is that there's no way that her contract would have been extended, and you've already made it clear that you would not have voted for it anyway. So what's happening now we'd have only gone through it next year anyway.
But as I said, as of right now, I would not vote. But again, that things can change. Just because I say today I'm not going to vote on a year and a half from now, who knows what numbers could come up by then.
All right, Chris Cotter, member of the school committee, appreciate you coming on. I wish you do it more often.
All right, Barry.
All right, thank you very much. I've got to take a break. I'm way behind. Let me do that. We'll get your reaction. The lines are humming. Stay right there. We'll be right back after this.